Would you like to see Contender for SJW of 2018? Well, you've come to the right place. Also, new info on the upcoming Joker movie, including a young Bruce Wayne. And we laugh at the fake news media and their Trump derangement syndrome. I go by the name of Johnny Massacre, and you're witnessing the Johnny Massacre Show. Good afternoon from Tokyo. It's 12:49 p.m. on Wednesday. I'm very glad you're here again. The eagle-eyed of you out there might notice that the setup has changed a little bit. We've got a different light source from up there, and I've changed the color blend. There's also going to be no more focusing issues and color issues as I've locked my camera's color and lighting settings. So very exciting, but technically we try to always improve on the JMS Johnny Massacre Show. So today's going to be an SJW fest. I've been meaning to get to this particular journalist for a little while, but I couldn't be asked because there's only so much acid we can take in our eyes and ears, isn't there, people? But we search for the truth on the Johnny Massacre Show. So let's jump straight into it. I'm going to show you who might be the contender for SJW of 2018. She falls into all the stereotypes. She ticks all the boxes. And this is not just going to be acid in your eyes and ears. This is going to be the equivalent of an acid bath. So prepare yourself. You're about to be inflicted with a lot of pain. Here we go. Let me bring this article up. Have a look. Feast your eyes. So, excuse me. So this article caught my eye a couple of weeks ago. Remember when Kanye had that meeting with Trump? So this article is in Teen Vogue, and I've never heard of Teen Vogue before, but just the name alone is shady, isn't it? I mean, they're trying to appeal to all the teens out there with their news, and you'd like to think it might be a little bit lighthearted, but no, Teen Vogue, its sole purpose is to brainwash young people into voting for liberals. That's the only reason it exists. As I said, I haven't heard of it until recently, but then suddenly Teen Vogue is taking the mantle for the worst SJW screed of all time. So look at the headline. Kanye West is what... Sorry. Kanye West is what internalized racism and misogyny looks like. And in the picture, you've got a picture of a black guy hugging a white guy, which is the most non-racist thing ever. It's okay, so let's have a look at the author. Her name is Jen M. Jackson. That's a rather fancy name. And so this is the intro to the article for that's been written by the contender for SJW 2018. Speak on It is a Teen Vogue column by Jen M. Jackson, whose queer, black, feminist perspective explores how today's social and political life is influenced by generations of racial and gender disorder. I did tell you there would be acid, and I've just thrown it all over you. I know it's hard to read this nonsense, but let's keep going. In this piece, she examines Kanye West's recent visit to the White House and what it has to do with larger systems of race and gender in the United States. Okay, so yeah, she's a black, queer, feminist. So this person scores a lot of points on the victimhood scale. These days, liberal politics is basically founded upon victimhood and appealing to lazy people who want to blame all their problems on others. And you hear a lot of whining in the news from ugly women that the patriarchy is keeping them down when actually they're just self-conscious and lazy. And you hear sometimes a lot of crying from Black Lives Matter activists who saying everyone's out to get them, even though if you look at the stats for police violence against black people, and especially police inflicted deaths on unarmed black people, it is infinitesimally small. And also queer. So yes, there are some queer activists right now who are playing the victim and saying everyone's out to get them, even though nobody hates gay people anymore in America and England. Pretty much the extreme majority just don't care, and they haven't cared if people are gay or straight for the last 20 years. So this author, we can see, is probably going to be a whining victim. So let's get into this article. Here we go. She says, many moments during the October 11 meeting between rapper Kanye West and President Donald Trump in the Oval Office of the White House could be described as cringeworthy, strange even. To be honest, to be fair to Jen M. Jackson, I would kind of agree with that. It was pretty cringy. My mate Luke, who I play games with, he said listening to Kanye West is a little bit like the drunk guy you listen to at a party, or some bum under a bridge who's intoxicated out of his mind, who just comes up to you and goes in your ear, and you go, yeah, okay, mate, okay. And I agree with Luke. I think Kanye West's rant was just nearly incomprehensible, and I think it betrayed his mental illness. Although I think his heart was in the right place. I think he just wanted to do something good, whether you agree with it or not. So I can agree with the author on this, but I'm not going to agree with much else. Let's keep going. West's embrace of Trump, a president whose policies actively harm marginalized groups and especially black Americans, no, it doesn't, is indicative of his beliefs. So black unemployment is at its lowest ever level under President Trump. So how the hell can his policies actively harm marginalized groups? Well, there's a link here which supposedly will explain how Donald Trump harms marginalized groups. Let's have a look at it. Donald Trump's policies hurt black Americans. Despite what Kanye West may say, the facts don't lie about Trump's destructive policies on the environment, education, and immigration. Okay, so yes, I mean, there's so much nonsense here, but let me just focus on immigration. So Trump has destructive policies on immigration. The last time I checked, all Donald Trump was saying about immigration was he doesn't want any illegal immigration. I don't either. Why the fuck would you want people illegally coming into your country? It's not a fucking picnic. Hey, everyone, come over, have a bite. You can't just say that, or you're going to have all the bums from under the bridge coming and nicking your food and leaving you with a fucking black eye. No, I'm not saying immigrants are violent or rapists or anything like that. I don't know anything about the data or stats. But what I am saying is, if you're going to come into a country, a first world country like the States or the UK, it has to be done legally. If it's not, you're going to end up with some bad people there. And that's all. That's all Donald Trump is trying to do. So, yes, Donald Trump his policies don't actively hurt people in the way that this author is making out. Let's go back to the article. Kanye's ideas about race, gender, and politics highlight the deeper commitments to misogynoir and anti-blackness that too many black men exhibit when those behaviors grant greater access to power. Okay, I don't really think this author knows what the hell they're talking about. This is very typical of far left. They invent all these weird words in order to suit their agenda. They basically are lazy victims, and so they need a plethora of weasel words that are designed to lead you up the garden path and confuse, such as misogynoir, anti-blackness, access to power, all of these things they just throw about, random bits of vocabulary, and there's no link between any of them at all. Okay, misogynoir. I'm guessing that means you're the ultimate victim, because not only are you on the receiving end of misogyny, but you're on the receiving end of racism. Let's have a look at misogynoir, one of these weird words that the author has regurgitated into her article in order to criticize Kanye West. So misogynoir, the citation, erasure, and plagiarism. Misogynoir describes the anti-black racist misogyny that black women experience. Wow, so they kind of come at the same time. We're going to kind of conflate these two things. So it's not just you're a woman, fuck you, you're a woman. It's you're black as well. And we're going to do it in the same time. We're going to do it at the same time. Okay, so I guess this is just a label that you can use to come out as a super victim and get sympathy from everyone and get jobs writing for Teen Vogue. Let's go back to the article. When black men actively participate in patriarchy and sexism, as Kanye does by aligning with Trump. Okay, let me just stop it there. Actively participate in patriarchy and sexism. It's like some weird group. It's as if this author who's paranoid and is having delusions thinks everyone's out to get her because she's black and because she's a woman. And she thinks that groups of men like me get together with my mates and we say, hey, how are we going to fuck over women today? Fuck women, let's take away their power. And like, fuck minorities, let's fuck them over. Nobody does that. Nobody fucking cares. This author who's whining about being black and female is writing and getting paid in Teen fucking Vogue and talking complete nonsense. She's completely hypocritical. If you are a minority and you're female and you can get paid for just talking out of your ass, you are living in the greatest country ever. There is no patriarchy and system and... I just don't know where to fucking go with this. Let's go. Oh, God. Okay. I need to calm down. I just cannot deal with this level of stupidity. Anyway, let's get back into it. So when black men actively participate in patriarchy and sexism, as Kanye does by aligning with Trump. So hang on a minute. So she's saying black men sometimes are judgmental and they treat women like shit. And they're sexist. They judge women in a certain way. But she is basically saying Kanye is invalid just because he stands next to Trump. So who's the real prejudiced person here? Anyway, she says when people do this, they reinforce the very systems that harm all black people, harking back to the distorted images of the fictional Uncle Tom character whose prime interest is seeking the favor of white people. So this woman is a zealot. She's fanatical. She just sees everything in color. Everyone's out to get her. She obviously doesn't like white people. She thinks Kanye West's prime interest is seeking the favor of white people. He wants to just talk to Donald Trump. It's nothing to do with him being white. You are the one who's bringing up color and making it all divisive. And Kanye West is the one who's bringing up color and making it for everyone. He's trying to say that we need to make the world a better place. We need to get along. And this woman is just being snide and snarky about races and genders. I mean, that's what these far left people do, and people on the far right. They'll come and punch you in the face with their nonsense, and then they'll go, oh, why are you even trying to hold your hands up and defend yourself? That means you're guilty. You're the one who's the violent one. You're committing violence. So that justifies more violence against you. It's crazy gaslighting nonsense. Back to the article. During the meeting, Ye was wearing a Make America Great Again hat, and the proud non-reader of books had much to say about race in America. Just pure hit piece. It's spitting vitriol left, right, and center. We had much to say about race in America, policing and murders in Chicago, and the history of black Americans. Kanye also expressed thoughts on the 2016 presidential election. I love Hillary. I love everyone, right? But the campaign I'm with her just didn't make me feel as a guy that didn't get to see my dad all the time, like a guy that could play catch with his son. Kanye's comments about Hillary are not only sexist, but seeming to imply that being with her somehow undercuts raising a son. They also point to his apparent obsession with patriarchy and power. No, he didn't mention patriarchy or power. You are the one mentioning patriarchy and power. Again, it's like before. They accuse other people of doing exactly what they're doing, which is just crazy. We shouldn't even give these people any spotlight whatsoever because they're just lunatics. But, you know, Teen Vogue gives these people jobs. And so it's such an overreaction. Imagine we actually live in a world that's dominated by this kind of thinking. You say the smallest thing and everyone calls you a sexist, racist, get out of the fucking bar. Oh shit, that is actually what is happening. And it's a very nasty, unpleasant place. We really need to save our ire and anger for serious things. Like, I don't know, some journalist having his hands and legs cut off in what must be the worst example of censorship and authoritarianism in the modern world. when this journalist got dismembered. I think it was in by the Saudis for speaking up against the regime. But no, we're going to try to demonize Kanye West and demonize kind of innocent, pure people. Come on, man. Kanye's not hurting anyone. Jesus. But authors like this, they seek to destroy and hurt people just to have a voice to push whatever nonsense that they're pushing. So back to this article again. We keep going back to the acid bath. And yeah, that's sexist because Kanye says, I love Hillary. How is that possibly sexist? The article continues. This wasn't the first time the Chicago-raised rapper has espoused ahistorical and anti-black ideas about race in America either. Just a few months ago, he said slavery was a choice. So, no. The author is saying that Kanye literally meant that black people had a choice when slavery was enforced upon them. But what he was saying was, since slavery was abolished, the kind of victim mentality of slavery has continued to the present day, where we're always blaming other people, we're always looking to the past, we're always blaming things that happened in the past for our own failures. And while I'm not undermining slavery and the effect that it has had on the world, which is fucking awful, at the same time, whining about it like that, in my opinion, is not going to do shit for you. Just because I'm white doesn't mean I've had privilege all my life. I've also been through some tough times, and just because your tough time is worse than my tough time doesn't make my tough time any easier to deal with. But you hear me whining about it? No. Why am I kind of free to do what I want and make the Johnny Massacre show? Because I'm not a bitch. I don't accept what other people say about me or my misfortune or whatever. I take the blame and responsibility for everything. And if everybody does that, then they will get their shit together and they'll be able to handle their business, unlike this person. Back to the article. So Kanye wasn't saying slavery was literally a choice. Then he said, "You made a Superman," Kanye told Trump, referring to the ubiquitous red hat of the Trump campaign. "That's my favorite superhero, and you made a Superman cape for me." Okay, so what do you think this author had to say about Kanye West saying he likes Superman and the Trump cap is like a Superman cape? Because to me, that sounds like a guy saying, I love this hat, I like Donald Trump, I don't think he's as bad as what people are saying he is. He's not throwing anyone in gulags. He's not enforcing censorship or anything like that. But what do you think this rather calm, measured author had to say about Kanye West's comment about likening his MAGA hat to a Superman cape? I wonder if she's going to conflate it with racism and whiteness and all this kind of stuff. Because if she does, it just shows you, again, it exposes how zealots think. They have a predetermined conclusion because of their own personal problems, in this case victimhood, and they go around trying to find any kind of evidence, loosely based evidence that can prove their point. All they care about is proving the point, and then they'll use selective evidence, as opposed to a rational thinker who has a thought but then doesn't want to be wrong, and so adopts a pragmatic scientific approach whereby they will try to disprove their thought at every step of the way until it is beyond doubt true. Let's have a look at what this author had to say. I wonder if she has an agenda. She said, Superman, a fictional comic book alien from the planet Krypton, looks human but defies all boundaries of humanity. He can fly, has laser vision, annihilates villains with his super strength, wears a cape. Okay, so that's true. She's stating facts. Now, what's her analysis of this? Superman is also very white, she adds. Okay, well, he must be infected then. So, in essence, Kanye is putting on armor of male whiteness whenever he wears a cap. Okay. So, my hero is Notorious B.I.G., Biggie Smalls. So, does that mean that every time I say Biggie Smalls is my hero, is that like me wearing blackface or something and doing wrong because I associate with black people, in the same way that Kanye West wearing a MAGA hat and saying I like Donald Trump is putting on white face or white armor? And even if you are putting on white armor, why is that a bad thing? Are all white people bad? Okay, let's keep peering into this window into the mind of a mentally ill person. Miss Jackson. Power is a tricky thing. Often people assume that it has to be absolute. They believe that if one group or individual has power, it necessarily reflects the disempowered status of another group or individual. But black feminists challenge us to rethink notions like this. In her book, Ain't I a Woman? Black Women and Feminism, originally published in 1981, black feminist philosopher and scholar Bell Hooks explained, racism has always been a divisive force separating black men and white men. Yes, that's true. And sexism has been a force that unites the two groups. So it's hard for me to understand this with my pea brain, but it seems like this author is saying racism divides black and white people, but then sexism unites them. So they're divided by something abhorrent, which is racism, but then they're brought together by something abhorrent, which is sexism. So it's just, everything is wrong, basically, with the world. I disagree. For Kanye, though, Trump's racism is apparently not a deal breaker, as he noted on Thursday at the White House. Okay, so Kanye said, so when I said I like Trump to like someone that's liberal, they'll say, oh, but he's racist. You think racism could control me? Kanye said. Oh, that don't stop me. That's an invisible wall. No, author. Kanye is not saying that he acknowledges Donald Trump is racism and therefore that's not going to stop Kanye because racism is okay. What he's saying is that he's not bound by liberal thinking and he's not going to act in a certain way just to be politically correct. And that just because he likes Trump doesn't mean he's a racist. The real prejudiced people are the people who say, because you like Trump, you are racist. They reduce you to something very simplistic, far more simplistic than any human could ever be, and try to pigeonhole you into a category as a bad person just for associating with someone or just saying you support them. So the author is the person who is racist because she's saying people think a certain way because of their skin color and because of the skin color of the people they stand next to or might support. She goes on, President Trump, the head patriarch of the United States. This woman is having a nervous breakdown. She really, really hates men. Has pushed health and labor policies that make life harder for women and children. Oh, really? Oh, really? Let's have a look at that. So what policies has he pushed that are fucking up women and children? The patriarchs, so here is the evidence. The patriarchs are falling. The patriarchy is stronger than ever. Okay, this is going to be a neutral article. It would be easy to end 2017 with the impression that whatever its afflictions, it was at least a game-changing year for feminism. The female revolution is here and could smash the patriarchy at its core, social and mainstream media headlines declared. Okay, so smash the patriarchy. That sounds a little bit violent, that sounds a little bit Antifa, and that sounds a little bit like something the author of the previous article that we haven't finished reading yet would endorse. We are blowing the whistle on the prime directive of the master-slave relationship between men and women. There is no master-slave relationship between men and women. Men cannot force women to do anything whatsoever. Women are free to do whatever they want, get any job they want, and vote. The only master-slave relationship is when a woman is sucking a guy's cock and the guy's kind of doing a bit of deep throat and he's like, come on, you like that, don't you, bitch? And she's like, yeah, yeah. And she continues doing it. So that's the only master-slave relationship I can see between men and women. And often the men and women both enjoy that. So, oh man, can I endure any more acid in my eyes from this article? This is the end of the patriarchy. This is from Forbes. The male domination of humanity. Twitter, the newsstand and street concur. This year witnessed a transformational moment in American sexual politics. So there's no point in going any further into this article because It says there's a master-slave relationship between women, and there isn't. Show me one tiny, tiny, tiny little shred of categorical evidence that in America and England there's a master-slave relationship. Because last time I looked, men have turned into complete bitches who'll do whatever a bullying woman will say because she's crying sexism. Let's go back to the article. Hopefully we're nearly finished now. Okay, so not to mention, Trump has exhibited enduring support for newly confirmed Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, the penultimate affront to sexual assault survivors. Okay, so this author is saying that Trump supports Brett Kavanaugh, who was confirmed Supreme Court of Justice, and that is an affront to sexual assault survivors. That is spitting in the face to anyone who's been raped. When the guy, Brett Kavanaugh, has never been convicted of any sexual assault whatsoever, and the only sexual assault allegations that came out were just before this vote, so it was pretty obviously to kind of smear him. And now, after he has been elected, the accusers have disappeared. We don't hear from them anymore. Can you be any more fanatical than this author? And it's not just people on the left, it's people on the right also, who would just believe anything to suit their case. If you go to CNN, which is the worst liberal screed ever, every single article is anti-Trump, and they will spin anything to say he's an asshole. And if you go over to the other side on the right, it's the same thing. They'll spin anything to say people on the left are assholes. There are very few people today who are left commentators or right commentators or personalities who actually try to be a little bit impartial. Ben Shapiro is one. He admits he's a conservative and his news outlet is completely biased, but he calls out President Trump and a lot of conservatives when they do things that are wrong. You know, when people are hounded out of restaurants, even if they're liberals, Ben Shapiro says this is not the way we should act. And that's why I really like Ben Shapiro. I'm kind of rambling a bit now. Let's go back to the article. So Kanye is no stranger to exhibiting sexist behaviors himself. Hooks explains this phenomenon shared among many men. Hang on a minute, mate. I've seen Kanye West come out. I think his cousin is gay. And he was saying to the hip hop community, don't berate people because they're gay. That's stupid. And he did that at a time when, before now, with all this identity politics, with this obsession with kind of protecting minorities and things like that, Kanye's already come out in defense of gay people. And so do you think that kind of person is a sexist as well? He was raised by his mother, and Kanye's quite a feminine guy because he was raised by his mother. And his wife is one of the reasons he's so big. She compliments him very well. Kim Kardashian, they complement each other. And she was the catalyst for his fame and their fame. So how can he be so sexist when he's supported his wife this whole time? He doesn't treat her like shit. He clearly doesn't. Let's keep going. So, yeah, basically she's saying Kanye's a sexist. And this feminist author, she's quoting them again. And the author says, men of all races in America bond on the basis of their common belief that a patriarchal social order is the only viable foundation for society. Yeah, so when I hang out with my mates, right, this author's totally right. What I do, I'm like, yeah, like, we're all part of the patriarchy. Go men, MEN to the end. And we're planning all these kind of protests and stuff about we need male power, and we're trying to work out this really devious strategy how to fuck over all the women in society. And this way of thinking is just endemic. It's everywhere. It's in politics, it's in education, it's in the school system. That's what this author is saying. She sounds like someone who's very mentally ill, who's paranoid and thinks everyone's out to get her. I would be concerned for this author's family because she might actually harm them. That's how anxious and paranoid and ill this author seems to be. And she's writing for Teen Vogue, which doesn't really say that much, does it? So, essentially, Kanye's ability to overlook Trump's racism complements the duo's mutual disregard for the rights and humanity of women. And this is actually the harmful thing here, is conflating Kanye West's behavior meeting Donald Trump with real harm to women, because there are countries out there where if women go outside without a hijab, they'll be beaten to death, possibly, or they'll be arrested, or they'll be abused, and that is a fact. If you do that shit in Saudi Arabia, if a woman just runs around without a hijab, she's going to be in serious shit. And so by trying to say the real serious shit is Kanye West speaking to President Trump, it means when we see news or when we see news about women being harmed or minorities being harmed that's legitimate, people start taking it with a pinch of salt, because so many authors, mainstream authors like this, are crying wolf about being a victim. So it basically really dilutes the seriousness and gravity of real victims out there. It's just amazing that this shit even exists today in such a mainstream form. But I guess that's the internet. The internet is very conducive to the mainstream. It's a pathway to mainstream. And before, the media was a bit more controlled. But now, the way things can be shared and stuff, it just facilitates all this nonsense. But I wouldn't have it any other way, because we can counter the nonsense like we're doing now. Let's keep going. I mean, I keep losing my position because it's just a big slice of nothing. It's just the ranting of a mentally ill person who hates men and is lazy and feels like a victim. We could pick up anywhere and it's going to sound like the same NPC drivel. This relationship between Trump and Kanye benefits them both. Kanye gets to spout his verbal diarrhea. That is true. It kind of was verbal diarrhea in the Oval Office, but you're doing the same. You two are made for each other. This author, Miss Jackson, should hook up with Kanye. They would get on like a house on fire. Or maybe they'd cancel each other out like Neo and Agent Smith in The Matrix 3. Anyway, he gets to spout his verbal diarrhea in the Oval Office, and Trump gets to look like the hero of the blacks. So there might be a tiny shred of truth to what she's saying here. You cannot tell me that Trump didn't want to have Kanye in the office because he's going to get some support from black people. So there possibly was an element of that in there. And you know, I mean, black people can identify with other black people and white people can identify with other white people for cultural reasons, because we have different cultural histories. And so I guess it's important in politics to appeal to blacks and whites and different colors of races of people and genders and stuff, because all these people have slightly different things that they look up to and that appeal to them. So men often look up to men because we understand men better because we are men. So a lot of male heroes are male. And the same goes for females. And so that's why it's important to kind of appeal to everyone. So there's a little bit of truth in what she's saying, but I don't think it's as sinister as she's making out. To Miss Jackson's credit. Kanye's actions, she goes on, have political ramifications too. Alicia Garza, co-founder of the Black Lives Matter network, which is a victim group. I guess maybe what they're protesting about is valid. Nobody wants to see police brutality against anyone. But now it's basically been hijacked by people like her who just use it for their own personal gain. You cannot tell me all the people in Black Lives Matter are of good moral standing. You have to be very, very suspicious when people start telling you how to act and how to think, and like parents, which is basically what Black Lives Matter do. And so like the author is saying, the co-founder of Black Lives Matter network explained on Twitter how Kanye's support of Trump is part of a larger tactic to rally black men toward the president. And let's keep going. Let's skip a little bit. Black women, however, 94% of whom voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, are typically the last line of defense to avert the threats posed to black people across the country. Well, if your actions are representative of the black female community, you are the first line of failure as opposed to the last line of defense. Actually, the last line of defense, do you know what that is? Against the black community, or just people in general in America, is men, the military. That is what the last line of defense is. These far left zealots love to kind of conflate military with trivial things. So the last line of defense, it's like we're battling. No, actually, the last line of defense is men who will come and save your ass if the country is invaded, because we're bigger and stronger than you. And nothing will ever change that. It's not to say women don't have a role within the military, they do, but it's generally not on the front line, because the people coming to kick your ass will be male and they can overpower women easier. Anyways, let's keep going. We're nearly finished now. The acid attack is nearly over. When the I can't pronounce that, Combahee River Collective explained that major systems of oppression are interlocking. They were highlighting how black women in particular face multiple oppressions at the same time, even from black men and white women. Legal scholar and feminist Kimberlé Crenshaw summed this up with the term intersectionality in 1991. She concludes the article, "This is why a few months ago I wrote a column explaining that black women are not your superheroes." Okay, well, I thought a lot of people looked up to Beyonce. "We are trying to survive in a world where even men who look like our fathers, brothers, sons and partners are still actively working to maintain systems of oppression and inequality that harm us." Okay, this is such a load of nonsense, it is untrue. So she's saying, imagine being this woman's boyfriend or family member. As I said, she seems unstable and that she thinks everyone's out to kind of kill her or destroy her. She's basically calling out her fucking dad, brother, children and boyfriend or girlfriend or whoever the fuck it is, and saying they're all working against me. Imagine being close to this person. It's very sad, you know, like mentally ill people, they will just destroy everything around them and blame everyone because of their own internalized pain and failure inside. If you were in this woman's family and you're male, she's going to treat you like shit just because you're a man. Who is the sexist person, really? That's how she's concluding her article. This is bitterness and resentfulness. How has this fixed anything? Honestly, mate, I want to get along with you. I want to be happy. I want everyone else to be happy. And we've all got our own perspectives and opinions, but how the fuck is this helping anything? All I see is just, I don't want to use this word because the left have hijacked it, but if you want to see something toxic, this is it. This person is like a disease who will just infect you with her negative outlook, her hatred, her antagonistic attitude, her hostility. She just wants to fight, and it's just because she's lazy and she just blames everyone for her problems. Imagine she took all this effort she spent on just nonsense and put it into individual responsibility and doing something for herself and not blaming people. Imagine how far she could get. She wouldn't be writing for Teen Vogue. She'd be writing for the world, probably. And she says fathers, not just men, but she's attacking her own. Fathers, brothers, sons and partners are actively trying to maintain systems of oppression and inequality. So it goes back to what I said earlier. Even if she said that it's a subconscious, subliminal thing, where's the evidence? We live in the freest country in the world, in England and America, pretty much, especially America. England, not so much these days, but yes, her country. And so there is no even kind of weird, unspoken thing where men are trying to destroy women. But she's saying it's an active thing. We're actually getting together and trying to fuck women over, which is just categorically false. So, hey people, we've just taken a trip into the mind of a mentally ill person and we've given credence to what they've said. And look where it gets you. You're kind of confused, baffled, and a little bit depressed. Hey, I rather would inhabit the real world where we can kind of chat and honestly about things and not blame and attack people unfairly. And even if people have done something wrong, let's hear them out and hear what they have to say, and maybe we can make something better. Let's communicate. Let's not put up walls and barriers between our fellow countrymen, fellow Americans, fellow Englishmen. It's awful. And her final sentence is, Kanye West, unfortunately, is no exception to the rule. So he's scum. He's actively working to maintain systems of oppression against everyone. When he had his ramble with Donald Trump, he tried to defend black people and said how too many of them are sent to prison and things like that. So, yeah, this is what the far left looks like. So the far right is horrible because it's just so actively racist. You've got these kind of quasi Ku Klux Klan nutters who want to have some pure kind of like white national whatever. It's horrible. And on the left, you've got this kind of stuff, which is a little bit more insidious. It kind of like covers itself in this thin veil of virtue and tries to come across like a good person. But really, they're just as bad. They're just two evils and they're fucked up. So I think people should come to the middle like me. Bit of the left, a bit of the right. You know, be proud of your country. Be proud of the freedoms you have because of your forefathers who fought wars and died for you, but also try to be a bit progressive and you know, accept people and treat everyone the same, like how the left think. I think we can get a bit of both. It definitely can't be one side or the other. Come into the middle, man. So okay, so we've got through that article and there's more SJW stuff. This is like an SJW special. So I went on to this author's Twitter. So Twitter is even more crazy from this author. She was holding back for Teen Vogue. You want to see what this woman really thinks? Holy shit. Okay, we go over to the Twitter of Jen M. Jackson. Okay, we're going to be all right. So that's a quote from a, what's his fucking name? That overrated rapper. Kendrick Lamar. That's a Kendrick Lamar song that's popular among Black Lives Matter terrorists, basically. So that's the first thing up there. And then we have a picture. And oh my God, this woman is so hideous. People take the side angle because it makes them look better, right? Beauty is basically symmetry. People have a symmetrical face. So I got a bit of a crooked nose for all those fights I got into, and a bit of a crooked jaw because I just chat so much out the side of my mouth. But if I look to the side, everyone can have this nice profile. That's why on dating sites and things like that, and Facebook profiles, everyone's kind of like this because anyone can look good from the side. But the true sign of beauty is from the front. So if you have a crooked ass face from the side, Jesus Christ, I would not want to see that shit from the front. But crooked face here, Crooked Jackson is just powerfully hideous. And she's got the red kind of NPC haircut going on. And wow, I mean, she looks incredibly miserable. And who could have guessed by that article we just plowed through, we waded through. So let's look at her bio. Political scientist. I didn't see a shred of science in that article. That was an affront on science. I saw a lot of political nonsense, though. Political science on the job market, works on threat, gender, behavior, and black politics. Columnist for Teen Vogue. Queer, she, her. Oh, so she's a transgender. So this is basically a man. And who could have guessed? Because you know what? That article's anger and aggressiveness, pugnacious feeling, all those qualities are something associated with men. So while people like this try to say that men and women are all the same and it's all fluid, you can actually see from this author's personality that they are male. Isn't that ironic and actually quite funny? So let's keep looking at this Twitter. So, okay, let's go down through her tweets because they are all just unbelievable. She says, black women are actually dying from a phenomenon called weathering, wherein we are worn down by the oppressive systems of the world until they irrevocably damage our mental and physical selves. So this is not the words of a scientist. There's no evidence at all. That's like saying that people who watch the Johnny Massacre show benefit from something called divine virtuousness, whereby they will all be blessed with the Spirit of God and go on to lead full and prosperous lives. Sound of crickets. Just saying some random shit, like a miasma of shit, into the air does not make it true. And you can see the author's victim mentality here. We're all dying. Actually, black people are dying and being murdered over in Africa because of the shitty state of politics and general affairs. Not because of weathering and because of oppressive systems of the world. So let's keep going into her quotes. This woman is just the queen victim who has a column for Teen Vogue and has 8,000 followers on Twitter. They're starting my 11th month-old nephew early with a picture of a book saying C is for consent. So she is endorsing a book that is teaching sex to 11-month-old children, which is disgusting. Need I say more? My God, my God, my God. Next, apparently using the word racism to describe racist stuff automatically invalidates good journalism, but describing a caravan of people as an invading army is fine and unbiased. So whoever this guy is, Dad, who she's endorsing with a retweet, he is hijacking this migrant caravan to try to play the victim. Now, describing a caravan of people as invading is actually who are trying to enter America illegally is not a bad thing. Now let's go to the dictionary and see what invade actually means. Invade means enter a place, situation, or sphere of activity in large numbers, especially with intrusive effects. So there's large numbers of people in this migrant caravan, and they're going to have an intrusive effect because their net benefits to society is so fucking small. They're probably not going to be able to get the kind of income, yearly income, that there's someone who's born in America could, and therefore they're going to be able to take a lot of benefits and not be able to contribute back. So that's kind of a little bit intrusive, isn't it? Because they're going in illegally. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I guess these dictionary terms don't matter because everything's fluid to liberals. Not all liberals, but far leftists like this, although a lot of far left ideology is becoming more mainstream, which is very worrying. Teen Vogue article proves that. But yeah, words just don't matter to liberals because, or crazy liberals, because what they say is not true, and in order to make it true, they have to change the very definition of words. It's so chaotic, man. This way of thinking is unbelievable. It just doesn't work, and that's why Donald Trump is the president. Because any rational person can see this. We've had to vote for Donald Trump to get away from this insanity. It's so entertaining, though. She continues, imagine waking up to learn that your country's leadership is working to actively remove you as an identity. They are defining trans folks out of existence. So this is in relation to the Trump administration wanting to kind of clarify that men are men and women are women if a person has a penis or a woman has a vagina, respectively. And actually, Jen M. Jackson claims that the White House are trying to define people out of existence. But actually, some of these mentally ill people who are trans are trying to define their wrong, flawed thinking into existence. They are saying, if I'm a man, I think I'm a woman, I am a woman. So actually, again, it's like going back to what I said earlier, people come out with some crazy shit, and then when you deny it, you're the problem. This doesn't work. And again, this is why Trump is president, because people don't want this way of thinking to be mainstream. Let's keep going. Trans people will still exist. Non-binary people will still exist. No one's saying you don't exist. People are just saying men are men and women are women, which is a fact. We will always be here, heard and necessary. No one said you're not necessary. If a trans person comes to me and talks to me and wants to debate with me about anything, why would I discredit them? They're a human being. Who gives a fuck if they think they're a man or a woman, or if they're mentally ill or if they're not? You know, if they're really mentally ill, we're not going to have a very good conversation, and very soon we can work out it's not productive. But if someone comes and is not angry like this author and they're reasonable, then I'm going to have a debate with anyone, and I think any reasonable person would. So stop trying to make a straw man about this in order to become a victim and just blame people and have a nice vent for your anger. I don't want that. Let's keep going. Okay, so I mean, every single thing is negative and obsessed with race and gender. This person is a zealot. The future isn't binary. So now she's retweeting pictures of someone who's saying the future isn't binary. I don't know about you, but that says to me the future isn't male and female. Why would you try to impose your kind of niche way of thinking on the world? I make music. I don't say everyone has to fucking make music. Everyone has to be creative. All these offices and stuff and salarymen and office workers who drive the economy and are really important, even though I think they're kind of lame and not cool. Fuck them. Get rid of them. Everyone has to do what I think. And if not, you're abusing me. You see how this works? It's insanity. It's insanity. It just proves there's a lot of insane people out there and they all get together. And for some reason, the left side of politics, they're targeting all this shit and just stoking this insanity. It's completely mad. Let's keep going. Oh my God. This woman is such a stereotype. I pride myself on not being too much of a stereotype, but if you're like this, you're an activist, you got purple hair, and you're a vegan as well. She's retweeted a tweet saying, this 22-year-old opened her own restaurant to make vegan food affordable. So this woman tries to come across like a rebel, but in having purple hair and doing all this vegan shit, she's actually conforming to non-conformity. She's ticking all the boxes. Oh, the irony. Oh, the irony. Another tweet by her. This reminds me of when I was riding my bike to class in college and a white girl jumped in front of me because she thought I worked there. I almost flew off my bike. She needed directions and my shirt said USC on it. Well, the reason you probably almost flew off your bike is because your balls are so big it really hurt when you kind of backed up on the seat. Because we know that she's really a man. And this is in response to a tweet by someone saying, a white woman just asked me to get the check for her at this brunch spot. When I told her I didn't work here, it was just an awkward silence. I guess my sweatpants didn't signal that this wasn't the employee uniform. If you're wearing if you look like a fucking dolt in a restaurant, because look, when I worked in a restaurant, I look like I'm trying to get by. I don't have the best appearance or whatever. I'm kind of young and just trying to do my fucking thing. And so people can kind of see I'm struggling to make it. I'm doing a job which is fucking, there's no pay. People might, that's the kind of general person who works in a restaurant, maybe a lot of restaurants. Let's be honest. We've all done it, right? We've all done it. And so if you're mistaken with someone who works in a restaurant, maybe you're just dressing down or you look a bit casual or whatever, because some people do dress down in restaurants, right? Or if you're not dressed down, perhaps you just look like someone who works there. It's not because of you're black or you're white or anything. Why always play that victim card? Why? Anyways, we don't know the specifics of this. Let's keep going back to it. 2 more tweets I'm going to read you. And one's about trans. Okay, we've had enough trans stuff. This last one. Okay, this is the really shocking one. She retweeted a tweet from Culture Matters with Nina Simone and a quote from Nina Simone that says, "It was always Marx, Lenin, and revolution. Real girls talk." So this NPC author with dyed hair, who looks like a woman but is actually a man, who's always playing the victims, playing the race cards, playing the woman cards, blaming everyone, vitriolic, toxic, hates everything. She is the ultimate NPC. She's a socialist, and she's saying Lenin was basically a good idea. So how many people did Lenin kill? If you look it up, he's basically attributed to with the death of about 3 million fucking people. How this person, how she can support something like that, I don't even know. But that final comment tells you everything she needs to know. She supports a political system that wherever it's gone, it's resulted in deaths of millions and insane famine that's killed like hundreds of millions in Russia. And look at North Korea. That kind of weird socialist communist shit. There's no place for that in the free West. I love capitalism. You know what? Capitalism got me the Johnny Massacre show. Got me my fucking hoverboard. It got me all my equipment that I love. Got me this artwork. Got me this shit. And I can do whatever the fuck I want, and I can make as much money as I want. And if someone else is a lazy cunt and can't do it, fuck them. I'm not going to give them my money, and that's that. Right. Now, on to much lighter news. The Joker movie. Okay, so you can get out of the acid bath. You're just probably going to look like bones right now, just pure skeleton. But if you're still here, it's Halloween. You can survive until probably the end of next week when people throw away their costumes or store them for next year. Check this out. The Joker movie is coming, and there's a young Bruce Wayne in it, which is very interesting. So Joker finds its young Bruce Wayne in Alfred Pennyworth. So I'm guessing that's these are the actors for Bruce Wayne and Alfred. Let's just do a little bit of reading. God, I how am I going to pronounce this? Dante Pereira Olsen and Douglas Hodge are joining Joaquin Phoenix in the film. More familiar faces from Batman lore are coming. So yeah, Dante Pereira Olsen is that little kid who will be Bruce Wayne, handsome little fella. And not quite so handsome is this is the guy who looks like he consumes too many refined carbohydrates. Who's Douglas Hodge, and he's going to play the butler, Alfred Pennyworth. I always love the surname Pennyworth. It sounds so posh, doesn't it? Mr. Pennyworth. So there isn't really much information about this, but the point is, look at these pictures. These are some of the actors in the film, and you're going to see a young Batman and a slightly younger Alfred Pennyworth, and that adds a really nice dimension. We've never seen a Batman film where, or a kind of film about the Batman world where Batman is young all the way through. So this is going to be an interesting novel take on the idea. So the more I hear about this, the more I like it. I don't know what it is, but Batman really inspires people to make quite adult stuff with adult themes and political themes, and that's why they're so cool. It's a bit darker, and that's why after Christopher Nolan did exactly what I just said with those 3 Batman films. Batman went a bit shit with Batman versus Superman, and especially Suicide Squad, where it's all a bit kiddie. Fuck all that. Batman has to have the adult edge. I'd love to see an R-rated Batman. Can you imagine how good that would be? Please make it happen. Excuse me. Okay, so what else have we got on the Johnny Massacre show today? Okay, we laugh at the fake news media and their derangement, their Trump derangement syndrome. Oh God, we're going back into politics. So this is very quick, but I noticed something recently. So, you know, this journalist got dismembered by the Saudis. So I went onto CNN today because I love looking at fake news. And there was a headline that says this: Trump condemns, is it Khashoggi death and aftermath as the worst cover-up ever. Excuse me. Well, that's funny, because the last 20 articles you ran on this CNN were saying how Trump denied that there's anything wrong and the Saudis didn't do anything wrong and that Trump is basically Hitler. Have a look at this. So in contrast to this admission by CNN that Trump has condemned this journalist's death, let's look at all the other news pieces before this. Trump says he believes Saudi explanation for Khashoggi's death. So that's the complete opposite. That's saying, oh, nothing bad happened to this guy, and that means Trump is an asshole. Another article, why Trump can swallow the far-fetched Saudi cover story. That was October 23. Now is October 24. Barely 3 days later, complete opposite. He's condemned it. I love the way they don't remove the fake news from this. They can't. We look bad. Another article, Trump, the Saudis, and America's disastrous enemy of my enemy is my friend strategy. That's saying that just the Saudis in general are basically being cunty politically, but the US is nice to them because the Saudis are enemies of the US's enemies. It's all strategic. Also, there are huge arms deals between the United States and the Saudis, billions, hundreds of billions of dollars worth. Okay, so again, CNN being hypocrites. Another article, why Trump doesn't want to punish Saudi Arabia. Okay, that was maybe 5 days ago, but now Trump is condemning it. Okay, so again, complete bullshit on CNN. And then Anderson Cooper, he discusses the fairness of the investigation and the theory of rogue killers that President Trump has been resorting to. That's just saying, absolving the Saudis of responsibility, but no, Trump is actually condemning it. Okay, and this next piece of news is some music tech stuff. I'm going to save that for tomorrow, a music tech special. So that is about it for the news-related topics on the Johnny Massacre show. Now it's time to talk about my life. Okay, so I have a little box on my notes where I write what's going on in my life, because there's so little going on in my life. I can never remember what the fuck's going on in my life, and I actually didn't write anything there. So what is going on in my life? Oh, okay, I'm so excited. Okay, I'm gonna freak out now. I'm gonna freak out. I'm having a fucking a moment because you know I love music technology, and my dream music technology chain is 3 things by the company known as Manly. It is the Variable Mu, it is the Slam, but it is also the Massive Passive. Now the Massive Passive is an equalizer, and it is the best equalizer that I've ever used. I just want to show you a picture of this beautiful baby, one of my dream pieces of hardware. It looks like this beautiful equalizer. Have a look at the guts. There's 6 vacuum tubes. It's a passive equalizer. And this thing is fucking magical. In contrast to a software equalizer, where if you turn up the high frequencies, it will damage your ears and sounds horrible. On this, there's no amount of gain you can do that will hurt your ears. The more gain you do, the more it distorts. And the distortion you get with this vacuum tube or valve type of device is even ordered harmonic distortion, which means the sound builds up and it sounds beautiful. So once I get this, you lot are in fucking trouble, because I've cracked it. My beats right now, disgusting levels, better than a lot of stuff that's being released in drum and bass, and I am fucking coming. Once I get this and can master my own shit, my output's going to be disgusting. So I'm motivated about music because of this new piece of tech that I might get, or it's a classic piece of tech, but this news that I might get it, this new piece of news that I might get, this classic piece of tech. And I got a mail today from Akane, my Japanese buddy who works over at Vintage King. Vintage King is the best retailer, online retailer for music tech stuff. Check it out. It's awesome. It's just fucking awesome. Just go there and check it out. And Akane, who works there, who's in charge of international sales, especially Japan, Tokyo, where I live, because she's Japanese and can speak to Japanese people, she contacted me today and she said, mate, I've got a really nice special edition massive passive in. Are you interested? And I said, hell to the yeah. And she's checking it out right now. She's going to send me some photos and stuff and just some info on it. And yeah, massive passive is coming to me, so I'm well excited about that. If you're wondering what that is, that's from just punching too much in the old kickboxing. Little scratch, nothing compared to Conor McGregor's stuff, but yeah. So I'm kind of lost for words right now. You can see I lost my composure there. I was kind of elated, like a Japanese schoolgirl discovering a very tasty onigiri in her bento box. But hey, we need a little bit of passion on the Johnny Massacre show, don't we? So finally today, mailbox. So I've got a mail for my man Charlie. We should just call this Charlie's mailbox because he's like the only person who asks me questions, basically. So look, can you get your questions in now for tomorrow's Johnny Massacre show? Do it right now. Send me on Twitter. Leave it in the comments below because I feed off your comments. Now, what did Charlie say? It's really weird on my Twitter. Whenever I look, I swear fucking tweets disappear, man. This happened fucking last time. Don't fuck up my show. Okay, well, I actually can't find his fucking tweet, which is just maddening, insanely maddening. But, as my gran used to say, it's maddening. It's absolutely maddening. But, yeah, I honestly, I can't even fucking see it. So you're going to have to wait till tomorrow for this question. Sorry about that, Charlie. It was definitely a very deep question, whatever the fuck it was. So anyways, let's just finish the show. So that was an epic rant. I actually quite enjoyed it. It's a bit clickbaity because my videos on SJW seem to get a little bit more views. So I'm not going to lie, that's one of the reasons I'm doing it. But also I feel very passionately about it, as you can see. So yeah, I thought it was kind of a bit therapeutic getting that out. It's annoying to see these mainstream publications saying things that are just so insane. I feel sorry for the kids that are reading it who actually believe in that stuff, but that's why you got to come to the Johnny Massacre show, trying to right the wrongs. I'm on a kind of twisted quest for justice. No, I just call it how I see it. I just want people to get along, man. I'm rambling now. Look, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Like and subscribe. Follow me on the Twitters, twitter.com/Johnny Massacre, Instagram.com/Massacre Johnny, and Facebook.com/Johnny Massacre. I will see you tomorrow.